Thank you and good afternoon to members of the committee, and welcome to the special meeting on the 3 o'clock, not a special meeting, but a 3 o'clock afternoon meeting on May the 25th. Welcome. I hope everyone had a great long weekend and enjoyed the nice weather for a couple of the days at any rate. With that, I have called this meeting to order, and I'll ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest in any of the matters before us this afternoon. Have you seen? No disclosure. Presentations, no presentations. We'll go straight into planning report. And David, no, planning and activity, pardon me. Karen, there we go.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so just a few highlights for April. I will mention that I did have a meeting with the new manager of planning services from the County of Renfrew, Bruce Howarth. Very excited to say that the zoning bylaw review is absolutely a priority for them. So you will see some movement in that file very soon. I do want to qualify that with the fact that that is, of course, no reflection on the services that we received from Charles Cheeseman, because essentially, a series of events and various priorities and pressures that both the town and the county had basically moved us apart on this file, but we're certainly moving back together. So, but again, no reflection on Charles. In terms of the zoning bylaw amendment for the Hoffman zoning bylaw, no appeals on that file. So that zoning for the subdivision is in full force and effect. The developer is currently working on having some encroachments removed from the property, some sheds and fencing and whatnot. So that needs to be done before we can actually register those lots. The site plan and zoning bylaw amendment for Emmanuel Lighthouse Church, as well as the Hawkins file. Both of those were at public meeting fairly recently. And the final date of appeal will be at some point in June. I did receive a package from the Herman Street School consultant, response back for the summary letter that was provided to them. So we will just be in the process of reviewing the concerns that we had and hopefully clearing those conditions fairly soon. New application, site plan for Fujisan Sushi, 254 square meter restaurant. 31 parking spaces are proposed with this development. They're going to be removing the parking area in front of the restaurant, or sorry, in front of the existing building. We're not happy with parking lots where you have to pull in and then back out onto a busy street. So they are proposing a patio area at the front of the building. In terms of subdivisions, we did receive a package from the consultant for the Radke Estates just last week. So we will be reviewing that from a planning perspective. And basically, CIP meetings as well as cloud permit meetings. So we've kicked off both of those projects and looking forward to getting those underway. And that's basically the highlights for April.
Thank you very much, Karen. I'll open it up for members of the committee for questions or comments on the report. Any questions, concerns? If none, then I need a motion to accept the report, please. James, seconded by Teresa. No discussion, all in favor? Opposed of any, it's carried. Thank you. Building activity report. Karen?
As you can see, a very busy month for April, 80 permits. So the staff were working fast and furiously to get those applications through and inspections underway. So it's been a busy time. Certainly, as you can see, our fees certainly reflect that number of permits. We did also provide a bit of an outline as to the 2019 permits. There were 31 issued in 2019 for the month of April. Of course, last year, 0 permits based on the issues associated with COVID. So, but the 31 permits gives you a better idea as to where we normally are at. I can take any questions if anybody has any.
Comments on the activity report. This is good news. You know, this is tremendous, actually. Year to date, I just asked the question this morning. There have been 40 new homes or permits issued year to date in the town, 40, which is pretty good, considering all that's going on with COVID, et cetera, et cetera. So, but the results that you see there, I think, are tremendous. It's a lot of money, then a lot of assessment that you see there. If there's no questions, I need a report, a motion to accept this report. Gary and Murray, all in favor? Is carried. Then we'll go to the budget. Anything you want to tell us, Karen, on the budget?
I can take any questions that anybody has.
On planning,
Budgets.
building, economic development. Any questions, folks? Have you seen none? Then we'll receive that as information. Thank you very much, Karen. With that, we'll go to Public Works. David, the monthly report.
Yes, your worship. So just to highlight a few items within the monthly report. So happy to say that all the projects actually have been awarded with respect to the roads. The last one was Laura Street, and Portage Road has started. Airport Road is almost complete. Biesenthal Road started today, and we're waiting for a kickoff meeting for Laura Street to determine their start date. Provided an update in regards to the water and sanitary projects, and then there'll be a report on the Renfrew Street pumping station project later on in this agenda. Any other items that I wanted to highlight? Just that in regards to the water and sanitary, always pleased to announce that we met 100% of the legislation requirements. All the health and safety requirements for the both the water and sanitary have been met, and 0 adverse water qualities. Seasonal work is being completed as we go along. Under the Petawawa Net Zero project, the biosolids energy recovery. So we're scheduled to have the second public meeting on in May or June of this year. That was the initial schedule. That's been pushed to September because of some of the delays in the REA reports. Those are the reports that are due to the Ministry of Environment and Climate Protection, and they're for our renewable energy application. Nothing else to report on that. You'll receive a report on the energy later on in this agenda. And the only other item that I wanted to highlight was the wayfinding strategy. So we did have the kickoff meeting in March early. We got delayed due to availability of resources to get information to the consultant. We're back on track with that, and we had a stakeholder group meeting on May 13th, and we'll planning to bring something to council in June for the review. So that's all the things I wanted to highlight. If there's any questions.
Okay, thank you, David. Questions of the report? Teresa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to David. David, just a question under asset management, average of capital projects as per schedule and budget. I see that our annual suggested funding is 2.5 million, and the 2021 funding was above that, and I presume that it's also above that in 2020 funding was above that, and I assume that's also going to be the case for 2021. Just wondering, with the performance to date being at a 72%, is it expected that that should increase or stay the same after this year? Thank you.
David?
Yeah, so the performance metric there is the pavement condition index. And so we sit, roughly at the 2.5 million that we spend every year. And this is strictly on roads surface. So it's not talking about, doesn't include the sanitary or the water that we fund. And so if we maintain that, through the following years, we expect to be around 72. It might sneak up to 73, 74. It'll be very dependent on the capital, but also our maintenance work. So if we continue with that funding, it should be staying at 72.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Other comments? How is the progress going on Portage, Scott? Are they on target or behind, moving forward, ahead of schedule? Can you give us a flavor of that, David?
Yeah, I never like to kind of get ahead of a project because of the unknowns that could come up. The anticipated start date for Portage Road was June 1st. Because of the unseasonable warm weather, we were able to take off half loads early, and the contractor was able to get in and start work earlier. So at this point, the anticipated completion date was in October. That has been revised to be in September. And all indications, it's very, very early. So, but everything is worked to schedule to date. So I can say that that the completion date, as we said right now, is September, and it's revised from the original being October.
Thank you. Other questions of the report? Seeing none, I need a motion to accept this report. James, Tom, all in favor? It's carried. Municipal Energy Plan.
Yes, Your Worship. I won't spend a lot on this. There was an Aqua presentation done on April 26 when we had Indra from Aqua, and he presented the findings and the recommendations. So I've just included the report, but also some of the takeaways in regards to the recommendations going forward. Some of the recommendations we are already, as part of some of our other initiatives, undergoing, i.e. the number 3 in regards to the opportunities to utilize the biogas. And also number 2 of the manager also looking at alternate fuels for our transportation fleet. So those are items that are already in different progress and completions. Some of these other ones certainly do need to have dedicated resources to it. So completing those are, I would say at this point, in jeopardy if additional resources aren't put towards them. Open up to any questions.
Questions of the energy plan? Seeing none, you see the recommendation report provided for council's approval. I need a motion for PW 15/2021. Teresa, seconded by Gary. No discussion, questions, comments? Call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? That's carried. Thank you. Then we'll go to PW 16-2021. David. David?
Thanks, Your Worship. And just scrolling down to get to the bottom of it. So, so this is the bicycle-friendly community award. So I was really happy to hear that we received the bronze award through Share the Road Coalition. So this was extremely a community effort. You know, a council with its vision in regards to wanting to be recognized for being a bicycle-friendly community. Certainly the partnership with the Garrison in a lot of our initiatives, and just the commercial, the businesses, the health unit. I'm certainly going to forget some people, but and you know, the big thing, the residents certainly wanting also to have a more commuter friendly community, and wanting to buy into that. So what I did was I provided that there was several municipalities that were either awarded silver award, bronze award, or honorable mention. So we sit in the bronze award category, along with Calgary, Kelowna, BC, and Saskatchewan, or Saskatchewan, sorry. And so certainly really great company there. Also wanted to provide some of the feedback that was provided through the bicycle friendly report. And that's also attached. And it highlights the community strengths that we have, and the partnership, and also forgot to mention the schools. So that was one of the things that they were highlighted in the report of the strength that we have with that Safe School Working Group. So and talked about some of the promising efforts, and then the key steps to silver. And so they're outlined in the report under engineering, education, encouragement, evaluation, and planning. So certainly open to any questions. Happy to talk about any specific items within the report that we received back from Bicycle Friendly Community.
Okay, thank you, David. That's a pretty impressive sign you've got sitting behind you. I don't know where that is, but I understand there's 2 or 3 of them that you did receive, and they're spread throughout the community. But I think that the town should be very proud of that and the effort that has gone forward by yourself, David, and all the stakeholders involved in this. It's pretty special when you see some of the groups that you're up against there that were awarded this particular situation. I think back to when we first got a trail award, and that was in 2005, 2006, when we got the Emerald Necklace Award for the CPRA, the Canadian Parks and Recreation National Award. And so this is pretty nice to see this following up, getting this particular award as well. So job well done to the entire team that brought this to where it is. So I'll open up for comments or questions. Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dave, great job, and to all the stakeholders here in the community. And again, it just shows that we're in the right direction, and I'm proud of that, and promoting an active transportation, and helping the environment as well. So good work to all. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. I thought I saw James's hand. Correct? You're muted, James.
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Guess I was unmuted the whole time.
There you go.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. And yeah, congratulations, Dave, to you and the entire team on getting this together and pulling this bronze off. That's great. It's a good thing for the community. It's active transportation and good for the climate. And I remember like probably 8 or 9 years ago, we had a lady from Share the Road come to the Civic Center and give a presentation on bicycle-friendly communities. And it was a lady whose husband had been killed in a biking accident, and she was very involved in the program.
Yep.
She spoke passionately about what Share the Road meant and what it was all about to be a bicycle-friendly community. And it's nice to see Petawawa moving forward on this front. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Further? Gary, and then Teresa.
Yeah, congratulations, Dave, to you and everybody on your team. Everything we've done in the past few years has been fabulous in terms of making our town more bicycle friendly. All you have to do is go out onto the trail on any nice day to see how many people are out there walking and cycling instead of getting in their cars and driving and polluting the environment. So congratulations. And I see in the report there, it says key steps to silver. I hate to throw this at you, but what are the plans to get ourselves to silver, and are we going to implement them soon?
Yeah, so I think if you scroll a little bit further down in the report, it's really dependent on the resources. One of the things that we have ongoing right now, and it is part of the key steps going forward, is the Wayfinding Strategy. And so that project in itself has been delayed because of staff time to get some information together to consultants. So I see that you have the active transportation, you have the energy, you have the asset management. There's a really need there to provide additional resources, either being summer employment or additional full-time support to push these along. Some of these are projects that work hand in hand with some of the other departments. So, again, it's not me carrying the load on this. Support through planning and economic development and their programs, and also community services. So both of those departments are really key in pushing the envelope forward. But if you take a look at some of the key steps going forward, it really requires resources to ensure that steps are done on an annual basis. It's not strictly just building the infrastructure. I think we will have, after the end of this year, we'll have a strong infrastructure, and it really gets down into education and encouragement, that aspects that we've done a great job on, but certainly are key steps to going forward.
Thank you, David. Teresa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for that feedback, David. That actually was part of what I was going to talk about, was the silver and the wayfinding being a critical part of what we do and to move us forward. And there certainly are under the silver some potentially quick wins, things like bike racks, things like that, to encourage people to ride is one thing, but what do they do when they stop and they shop and things like that. So small things we can do, but also I was going to mention that the trails will add a certain important element to continuing to connect us. And I'm just also wondering if it's your plan that at some point, maybe this year or early into next year, that you might be bringing forth a quick little report to address some of those things like human resources and things for us to consider as council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, brother. That's an information item then. We'll just receive that as such. With that, we'll go on to item number 4, PW 17-2021. David, please.
Yeah, so this one is not as much good news. So this was the tender for the Renfrew Street pumping station. And so we've done the improvements on that pumping station in some stages. The first stage was the installation of a generator. And then this stage would see the completion of a building and new controls. And then all set and basically setting it all up such that once we need to install another wet well and some new pumps to maximize the capacity of that pumping station, that we would have the infrastructure in place so that we could do it. The idea too was to actually divide this into phases such that it wasn't a huge expense all at once. So we did the tender. It closed on May 4th. We had 7 firms pick up packages and 3 firms submitted complete tender packages. You can see the bids that were submitted, and certainly well over almost double the budget for the project. So went back to Aqua and our consultant JP2G to reevaluate it. And so the recommendation right now is continue to monitoring the capacity requirements. Certainly the pumps themselves are certainly well within their capacity and will be for many years. So that's not an issue that has to be addressed. The controls are getting older. They're approximately, I guess, 20 years maybe that they've been in place. And so we'll have to just watch to make sure that those don't start costing us a lot of dollars. And then kind of rescope the project and then maybe retender it in another year. Certainly this was one that we did get hit, I think, from the COVID aspect of it in regards to material costs, but also in regards to any contract that we do set up, that there would be a certain amount of working days for the contract to complete. And I think the concern here was that would they be able to get the material in time such that they could meet the completion date. And so I think part of is factored in here is the delay claim costs that the town would impose, the liquidated damages in that. So the recommendation at this point would be that we not fund the project this year, but really looking up to council for direction.
Thank you, David. We'll open it up for comments or questions on this. Murray?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Dave, for the information. Yes, I would be willing to postpone the upgrade, with keeping in mind that if we have to do the minor modifications to make sure that everything's running efficiently. But as mentioned, the extra cost and what we budgeted for, I would have no problem waiting for another year and we put this out again and see what happens. Thank you.
Teresa, then James.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would agree to the wait as well. And, taking that money that was expected to be spent this year and parking it in reserves or whatever the case may be, and re-examining again the requirement for next year. Thank you.
James?
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. Concur with Councillor Sabrin and Roots. We should park this for the time being, put the money in reserves. And question for Dave. So a project like this that's adversely affected by COVID-related issues, once the pandemic has passed, can we expect prices to come back to normal ranges? Or, as is so often the case, when the crisis passes, the prices continue to soar?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I guess I wish I had a crystal ball and I could give you a proper answer. Yeah, like, my experience is that, a price gets escalated because of some crisis, and but it never does go back. Yeah, I would, certainly would suspect in 2022 and the following years after that, certainly the price for steel and availability of raw materials and that would improve, and such that it would be reflected in the pricing. And I guess time will only tell.
Thank you. Other comments, Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also agree that that's a pretty big increase in price. So it's a good idea to wait until next year to complete this project. Dave, I'm just wondering, next year when we tender this project, are you going to tender it exactly the same? Or are you looking to reduce the scope of this to reduce the price?
The scope of the project should remain very similar to what we tendered this year. The changes will be in how we approach the control side of it. So the building itself seemed reasonable in regards to the cost we received. It was the controls that was a lot higher than what we expected. And so we're taking a look at what different controls that we could implement yeah, different strategy there. So the scope will predominantly be the same, but it will just be on the materials and how we spec them that will be different.
Tom, okay, then I have a question about the building. Go ahead, Tom.
My only concern is I'm not happy with the estimate put out by our engineering firm to be for the cost to come in double of what they estimated. I realize we have COVID and so on and so forth, but I do have concerns with their estimating it this time. I just want to make sure we're thinking about that in the future.
Thanks. David, for 20 odd years, that pumping station hasn't had a building. Now we're building a building. I guess the question I'll ask, why a building after 20 years when it's been sitting there without a building? I know it'll shelter the controls and so forth, but for 20 years at Renfrew Street, there hasn't been one. What is the rationale behind putting a building? And it sort of plays into the question that Gary has asked. Are we going to go forward with the same scope of the project? Convince me there's a need for a building.
Yeah, the building is to exactly what you said, protect the controls. So every pumping station that we currently have, except for this one, has a building. You got your Harry Street pumping station, you got your East Street pumping station. They all have buildings to protect the controls. I was not around when this pumping station went in, so I'm not sure why a controls building wasn't installed right from the beginning. But it provides that protection for the controls. It provides for easier maintenance activities. And then once we do the upgrade for the additional pumps and wet wells, so there'll be some increased complexity and amount of controls that it does really need its separate enclosure.
Okay, so how much capacity do we have in that? Okay, let's assume the magic wand and there's a whole bunch of growth on the other side of the highway. That's where this pumping station performs its work, isn't it? That's where the flow comes from. How many years have we got before we have to fix the pumps in there, or the dry well, or not the dry well, but the wet well in there? We get 2 years, 3 years? What have we got?
Yeah, I think that comes back to that crystal ball that I don't have. Fortunately, it really depends on the development. If in regards to the residential, no concerns. I think they can build out the rest of Bedard and they'll have no issues there. It will really depend on the commercial in town center and the flows from there. What we're experiencing right now and the information that I'm getting from Aqua, that we're probably sitting at between 30 to 50% of the capacity of the existing pumps. So there's lots of flow available, but it really depends on the commercial and when that develops.
So on that's what I'm saying. Let's assume we get a magic wand and everything happens over there. do you have to change or put in another well, or do you have to put in another pump, or what is it you have to do to give us the capacity that's necessary there?
Yeah, the upgrades required in the pump capacity would really be a duplication of what's there right now. So right now, in simplistic form, it's a deep well, and it's got one set. I think it's one pump in there, and so the upgrades would be putting in an additional wet well. And an additional one pump, and possibly a third one for standby.
So just so that I'll understand there, because I have been around, as was Tom, way back when the original concept of Renfrew Street pumping station was put in place. Is all the capacity now coming from the Bedard subdivision and on the other side of the hill? Is it going to Harry Street, or is some of it coming into Renfrew Street? So
some of it is flowing through Harry Street. There was a change, and when that change was, I don't have that off the top of my head, but some of the flows went through to down Herman and then down to the Harry Street pumping station. Okay, fair enough. So there's some flow going both ways, Harry Street and to Renfrew Street. Yeah, that development is split. Okay, fair enough. Thank you. So what do you want from us this day? Do you want a resolution to table this?
Sorry, I would be looking for a motion to cancel the tender.
Motion to cancel. Okay. All right. So if you're not comfortable going ahead, and it sounds as though you're not, I need a motion, as Don has said, to cancel. Murray, seconded by Teresa. No further discussion. All those hopes. You want to speak to this, James?
Yeah, I was just curious whether the motion should make reference to the fact that the monies will be put in reserve, or is that just a given?
Well, that's already in development charges, the money.
Okay, so it just won't be taken out, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Okay. If there's no further questions, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any, it's carried. Thank you. We'll go into the budgets. David, first is Public Works budget. You gonna get anything to talk to us about?
No, nothing to highlight at this point. If there's some questions.
Questions, okay. Questions of the transportation budget. The big job, the big boy. Nothing? Information. Sewage system. Seeing none, no questions, David? No comments? Okay.
No.
Okay, we'll receive that. Waterworks. Seeing none, we'll receive that as well. With that, then we'll go to the Pembroke Area Airport Commission. Who's going to speak to this? Murray? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before council, yes, you'll see the 2021 Pembroke Area and Airport Commission budget. You'll see the total assessment where we are, the town, percentage of the total at 30.264%. You'll also see then on the actual budget, the from 220 to 221, the revenue side and the expenditures. A little tougher year last year with everything that was going on with COVID and that. But overall, we're in the right direction at the airport. I feel what we're looking for here is support from the council, Mr. Mayor. As we all know, it's 75% to of all stakeholders to have the budget process move forward. Any questions, Mr. Mayor? I'll be more than glad to try to answer with council.
Questions of the budget. Teresa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry about that. Just a question, if I could, to Councillor Roots. I noticed that the insurance seems to be higher projected for this year, and just curious as to if insurance company has given a rationale as to why the larger increase this year over last year.
Okay, I'm just looking at that just a moment. Insurance. Counselor, at the moment, I don't have an answer on that, but I'd be more than glad to source that information for you. I see that online now, 55.95. But yes, I will look into that. Probably just like every other, the asset of out here at the airport is greater now also. So I'm sure this has something to do with it as well. So, but I will get you a more accurate answer on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments? Well, I have to say, as I have said every year, I do not believe that that should be an automatic 5% increase on the municipal levy. No other organization or committee or anything within the town automatically gets a 5% increase. And so I have made my comments, but do we need a motion to accept this budget? Okay. I've said my piece about the 5%. Need a motion to accept this budget if you're comfortable with it. Murray, seconded by Tom. Any discussion on this? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Nothing for closed? No problem. Nothing for closed?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor, but I did just, prior to you closing the meeting, just wanted to say, as a result of the announcements from the provincial government last week and us moving into a reopening phase, that it would appear upon first blush that the virtual meetings of council will need to continue. Currently, I think we're booked until June the 7th. But by the time we pass the stay-at-home order, which is to expire on June 2nd, and get into all of those things that need to fall into place for us to move through the stages, we could be the beginning of August by the time we're actually into stage 3. So I'll just advise council that as of right now, it would appear that our meetings, remaining meetings for the month of June and July, will be done in a virtual fashion.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for that. If there's nothing else, I need a motion to adjourn, please. James and then Tom, all in favor? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.